The rain was coming down in sheets as I stared out the window of my apartment in Chicago. I loved this city, loved the energy, the grit, and the way it always felt like something was happening just around the corner. But tonight, all I felt was a bone-deep chill that had nothing to do with the weather. My name is Silas, and until a few weeks ago I thought I had it all. A good job as a software architect, a comfortable life, and a wife, Juniper, whom I adored. We'd been married for 7 years, a good marriage, or so I thought. We met at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was immediately drawn to her sharp wit and infectious laugh. She was a graphic designer, creative and vibrant, a perfect complement to my more analytical nature. Our life together in Chicago was good. We had our routines, our favorite restaurants, our shared dreams of maybe one day opening a small art gallery together, showcasing her work and the work of other local artists. But then came the late nights at work for Juniper, the excuses about demanding clients and impossible deadlines. I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted her implicitly. I'd bring her dinner at the office sometimes, a surprise, just to show her I was thinking of her. She always seemed stressed, distracted. "Thanks, Silas," she'd say, pecking me on the cheek before turning back to her computer screen. One evening, I decided to surprise her again. I arrived at her office building around 8 p.m., a pizza in hand. The lobby was deserted, the security guard engrossed in a baseball game on a small television. "Juniper Shaw," I asked. "She's still up on the 5th floor, right?" The guard barely glanced up. "Yes, she and that fella Kael are probably still burning the midnight oil." "Kael," I frowned. "Who's Kael?" The guard shrugged. "Some hotshot from marketing. Been working real close with Juniper on that new campaign. Always here late." I thanked him, my stomach clenching with a feeling I couldn't quite name. I rode the elevator to the 5th floor, the pizza box feeling heavy in my hands. As I approached Juniper's office, I heard voices. Low, muffled, but definitely voices. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door. Maybe I should just leave the pizza and go. But something held me back, a nagging unease that I couldn't ignore. I pushed the door open. The scene that greeted me was like a punch to the gut. Juniper was standing close to a man I now knew was Kael. They weren't just talking. They were kissing, passionately, deeply, completely oblivious to the world around them. The pizza box slipped from my grasp, hitting the floor with a thud that seemed deafening in the sudden silence. Juniper gasped, her eyes widening in horror as she turned to face me. Kael stepped back, his face a mask of shock and guilt. "Silas," Juniper stammered, I can explain." But the words were hollow, meaningless. The image of their kiss was burned into my brain, a brand that would forever mark my memory. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just turned and walked away, the sound of Juniper calling my name fading into the background. I spent the next few days in a daze. I went to work, went through the motions, but I was barely functioning. Sleep was impossible. Food was tasteless. All I could think about was Juniper and Kael, their betrayal replaying in my mind like a broken record. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know what to say. What could she possibly say that would make any of this better? Finally, after 3 days of silence, she came to our apartment. I let her in, my heart pounding in my chest. "Silas, please," she began, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, it just happened." "It just happened," I repeated, my voice flat. "You kissed him, Juniper. You didn't just accidentally bump into him and your lips somehow magically collided. You kissed him. You wanted to kiss him." She started to cry. I know, it was a mistake, a stupid, terrible mistake. I love you, Silas, I swear I do. This doesn't mean anything." "Doesn't mean anything," I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You think kissing another man means nothing. You think betraying my trust, breaking my heart means nothing." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Don't touch me," I said, my voice rising. Just tell me the truth. How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, her eyes darting around the room. "A few weeks," she mumbled. "A few weeks," I repeated, incredulous. "A few weeks of lying to me, of sneaking around, of pretending to be someone you're not." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Silas. Please forgive me. I'll do anything to make this right." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized that I didn't recognize her anymore. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone. Replaced by someone selfish, deceitful, and cruel. "I don't think I can forgive you, Juniper," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I think we're done." The next few months were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and heartbreak. We sold the apartment, divided our belongings, and went our separate ways. I threw myself into my work, burying my emotions in lines of code. I tried to move on, to forget about Juniper and the life we had shared, but it wasn't easy. Everywhere I went, everything I did reminded me of her. Our favorite coffee shop, our favorite park, the art gallery we had dreamed of opening together. It was like she was still there, a ghost haunting my every step. One day I received a message from an unknown number. It was a picture of Juniper and Kael standing in front of a courthouse. They were holding hands, and Juniper was visibly pregnant. The message read, "Just thought you should know." I stared at the picture, my mind reeling. Pregnant, with Kael's baby. The betrayal cut even deeper this time, a fresh wound on top of the old scars. I felt a surge of anger, a burning desire for revenge. But then just as quickly the anger faded, replaced by a profound sense of sadness. Sadness for myself, for Juniper, and for the life we could have had. I realized that revenge wouldn't bring me happiness. It wouldn't undo the past. It would only consume me, turning me into someone I didn't want to be. I decided to let it go, to focus on myself, on my future, to find happiness again, even if it meant doing it alone. I started seeing a therapist, talking about my feelings and working through my pain. I reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and started traveling again. Slowly but surely, I began to heal. One evening, a few years later, I was at a gallery opening, admiring the work of a local artist. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and saw a woman standing there. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. "Silas," she said. "It is you. I am Mallory. We met briefly at a conference a few years ago. I'm a software developer too." We started talking, and I found myself drawn to her intelligence, her humor, and her genuine kindness. We exchanged numbers, and a few days later we went out for dinner. We talked for hours, sharing our stories, our dreams, and our fears. I found myself opening up to her in a way that I hadn't been able to do with anyone else since Juniper. As time went on, Mallory and I grew closer. We fell in love, and eventually we got married. Our wedding was small and intimate, surrounded by our closest friends and family. As I stood at the altar, holding Mallory's hand, I couldn't help but think about Juniper, about the pain and heartbreak I had endured. But I also realized that I wouldn't be where I was today without having gone through that experience. It had made me stronger, more resilient, and more appreciative of the love I had found with Mallory. I had forgiven Juniper, not for her sake, but for my own. I had let go of the past and embraced the future. And in that moment, I knew that I was finally, truly happy. I learned that betrayal can break you, but it can also make you stronger. It can teach you valuable lessons about trust, forgiveness, and the importance of self-love. And sometimes it can even lead you to a love that is deeper, more meaningful, and more fulfilling than you ever thought possible. Even though the scars of Juniper's betrayal will always be a part of my story, they no longer define me. They are simply a reminder of how far I've come and how much I've grown. And as I look into Mallory's eyes, I know that I am finally home.